Look at this central power line. It is being continuously drained by a vast, decentralized network of unauthorized connections, pulling raw capacity directly out of the system. For the Liberia Electricity Corporation, or LEC, this continuous drain translates into an entrenched financial crisis. Cumulative losses from systemic energy theft run into the hundreds of millions of dollars, stalling the utility's baseline operations. This photograph captures the physical reality of the crisis in Monrovia. These dense, tangled webs of black wires are illegal connections, explicitly built to bypass standard infrastructure through meter tampering and localized asset vandalism. To measure the scale of this problem, utility engineers use a metric called Aggregate Technical and Commercial Losses, or ATC&C. This measures both the physical energy that bleeds out of the wires and the commercial energy that is consumed by households but never billed. When ATC&C losses remain chronically high, the utility loses the revenue required to function. It paralyzes LEC's ability to reinvest in grid expansion, balance load management, or maintain basic service reliability.
Thanks to
That
Pastor
lack of
Brahman for
reliability
this
produces visible
brilliant
decay across
production.
the grid. When the public sees failing infrastructure and experiences constant outages, they lose trust in the utility, which creates a justification for further theft. Grid failure in Monrovia represents a systemic collapse of the social contract between the utility and the public. The traditional state response to this crisis has been purely punitive. In 2019, the government passed the Power Theft Act, officially criminalizing the illegal abstraction of electricity. The legislation provided a legal framework, but it failed to produce a deterrence effect. Arrest threats alone could not scale down the soaring ATC&C losses. This image of Monrovia demonstrates the logistical impossibility of that top-down approach. You cannot deploy a centralized police force to manage door-to-door enforcement in a densely populated urban environment, where informal utility connections are the standard practice. Residents weigh the distant legal risk of arrest against immediate economic reality. Facing high tariffs relative to their income, neighborhoods naturally turn to informal community electricians as a cost avoidance strategy. Because these informal technicians provide a highly demanded service, the community protects them. This localized resistance renders external enforcement agents entirely blind on the ground. Recognizing the failure of strict criminalization, LEC drafted an alternative framework for 2026, the Strategic Community Partnership Proposal. Top-down legal penalties will continually fail when the socioeconomic incentives of a community favor informal, unauthorized networks. To fix the grid, the incentives have to change. The bedrock philosophy of the 2026 proposal shifts the relationship entirely. Communities must transition from passive consumers of electricity into actively invested co-managers of the grid. The framework assumes that residents possess the local intelligence, their social capital, and physical proximity required to identify theft, tools that external enforcement agencies completely lack. Utilizing that local intelligence requires strict incentive alignment. Social norms only shift when the community receives a tangible, measurable reward for identifying anomalies. The proposal functions as a strict performance-based economic model, paying out localized financial commissions proportional to the exact amount of theft averted. The objective is to establish a multi-tiered, community-embedded governance model. The utility needs a system capable of tracking and policing energy usage at the micro-local level. To achieve that micro-local surveillance, the utility must integrate existing local government structures directly into its daily operational reporting. True utility profitability means abandoning the rigid users pay enforcement model. Instead, users are paid to take ownership of their local supply integrity. This architectural blueprint ensures accountability flows downward, while reporting flows upward. At the top, district energy boards exercise strategic oversight and coordinate enforcement with the national police. They review performance data to disperse community development funds. Tier 2 features community energy committees, the frontline organizers maintaining real-time energy watch systems to detect tampering. They bridge the gap between external utility teams and the public. Tier 3 utilizes zone supervisors to conduct sub-community field audits and escalate anomalies upwards. Below them, neighborhood energy stewards serve as first responders and manage awareness. The final tier is the peer accountability networks, the absolute household level, where individual compliance is enforced. Every tier is legally bound to the utility's priorities through formal community partnership agreements. This five-tier architecture weaponizes local proximity. It replaces blind external enforcement with an inescapable web of internal civic oversight. Decentralized governance models carry a structural vulnerability: elite diversion. Local leaders can capture the system, blocking incident reports to protect their theft or siphon commission funds. The 2026 proposal engineers a bypass by deploying Youth Utility Advocates, or YUAs. This photograph illustrates why the utility targets the youth demographic. Young people constitute the majority in Monrovia's communities, making them a massive, untapped resource for civic innovation and institutional support. The Youth Utility Advocates are given a primary mandate: conduct independent, cross-tier field monitoring of all in-field technicians and authorized connections. To protect findings from local interference, UAAs entirely bypass community committees, submitting anomaly reports directly to LEC's Youth Coordination Office. Their independence is guaranteed through economics, earning stipends tied strictly to the accuracy of their reporting and incident documentation. The Youth Framework acts as an essential auditing vector, ensuring data integrity across a decentralized network that would otherwise be susceptible to local corruption. Integrating an entire city's governance structure requires capital, but the framework is designed to operate at no net cost to the utility once baseline recovery is exceeded. The financial engine is strict. Commissions are a percentage of verified recovered revenue. A portion of this pools into a community development fund to reward high-performing areas. This fund pays for tangible outputs: street lighting, water access, and school upgrades. A tiered bonus structure also rewards the districts that achieve the top quartile in theft reduction, creating positive competitive dynamics between neighborhoods. The framework successfully internalizes the cost of grid security. It takes the capital preserved from averted energy theft and converts it directly into visible neighborhood wealth. The 2026 framework treats communities as active shareholders, compensated directly for the oversight they provide in grid security and theft reduction. This creates a virtuous cycle. Localized theft reduction generates surplus revenue, directly funding community infrastructure, strengthening trust, and driving higher rates of future compliance. By utilizing youth advocates as independent auditors, the utility takes a marginalized demographic and turns them into the frontline protectors of the grid. In complex developing environments, a utility's physical infrastructure cannot be secured by force. It is secured by engineering a robust, profitable partnership with the people living beneath the wires.